Gospel also originated from the slave experience. Blues was kind of taboo in the church. Oh, they singing that devil music. So I said, man, he said, why don't you join the male chorus? I said, man, I don't sing. He said, if you can talk, you can sing.
Put your elevator this morning, baby. Elevator running slow. I bought your elevator, baby. Won't you take me up on the third floor? But I hold up my...
I am very honored and excited to have my guest, Mr. Lou Jerome Price. He's a wonderful vocalist. He does gospel, blues, and I just want to say hello to you, my friend, and welcome to my talk show. Come on, talk to me.
Hey, Manny, it's always good to talk to you. One of my greatest pleasures in life is chatting with you, man, because I always learn something every time
Come
we
on.
talk.
Come on, man. Come on.
I know you don't like to take credit. You don't like to take credit for stuff, but I'm gonna give you credit. I don't take credit. I give God the credit, and I take cash.
I hear you. I hear you, man. Well, you just mentioned the Lord. Let's start there because the show talks about uh, gospel, blues, jazz. We're doing R&B, and we're also going to be doing a little of the Chuck Brown era. So let's start with gospel. How did you start in gospel, and where'd you get it from?
Well, I grew up. I was born into the Methodist Church, but my grandmother, my father's mother, she was Baptist, and when I would go to her church, I always enjoyed. They had an old building that sat on the campus of Radford University.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just liked the way that building would swing and the bees were flying in out the window. But I always wanted to be baptized. So after I came out of the service, out of the military, and came to D.C., I, was married. I had a family, and I built a house over in Columbia. So there was a church down the street, and a friend of mine in the neighborhood, he said, man, let's go down and check that church out. So I went to First Baptist of Guilford, and that's where I started with, and I got baptized in 1978.
Okay.
And there was a guy there named David Moore. We became friends. I know if you heard Lord Spottermore, the guitarist, that's family.
Yeah, yeah.
Player and a pretty good singer. He emulated Sam Cooke and all that stuff in gospel. So he said, man, he said, why don't you join the male chorus? I said, man, I don't sing. He said, if you can talk, you can sing.
Yeah, okay.
I said, okay, David. So he pushed me. I joined the male chorus. And then one rehearsal, there's a guy who was big in the gospel world around D.C. His name was Herbert Lee. He was the choir director, and he asked me to sing this song and lead the song. I said, man, Anyway, I did the song. When I stood up to sing, I was numb from the waist down.
Yeah.
I don't know how I was standing up, but anywho, I did the song, and I said, wow. So David came to me and said, man, I told you could do it. I told you could do it. So that's how it kind of started with gospel in the
Okay.
church. I joined a couple other choirs, the Angelic Voices. I was on another choir called it was Combined Choir. I sang with that, and Reverend Evora Robinson, who was a minister, but she had a couple of choirs she was running, and she used to call me Dark Gable. I said, oh, really? Dark Gable? I had a desire to do quartet stuff, but I didn't do it.
Okay, okay. How come you didn't do it?
I'm this type of guy. If an opportunity presents itself, a lot of times I don't go after stuff that I would like to do, and I'm just not that type of guy that goes after stuff. If it happens organically, then I'm cool with that. But it didn't happen organically. But I love quartet music. I sit up some nights and instead of sleeping, I'm watching quartets, Swans, Silvertone,
Silvertones.
all over. But I love quartet music.
Sure, sure.
in
Before you, well, I got a question for you. I want you to stay right there a second. What is gospel to you?
gospel music is the gospel. I mean, it is what it says it is. It's gospel in music.
Okay,
It it's giving you the gospel, the feelings of people in their hearts in music to augment the preaching and what goes on at church.
very well said. Well, to sum that up, now you know that gospel was the beginning of all the music, and then we went into blues. So let's move into your blues career and how did you leave gospel and move into blues, or did you still? I know that you've never left gospel, but I'm just asking you to talk about that. Let's talk.
Okay, can I just back up 1 second and
Sure.
say that gospel also originated from the slave experience.
Exactly right.
Some of those beats and some of the feelings that come out of that music come from slaves, how they communicated
That's right.
with each other. So, the hierarchy, the boss, whatever you want to call it, didn't know. That's how they communicated. And some of those beats and feels come from Africa to start with. I mean, we can't ignore that fact.
Right, right.
That's a huge fact. So moving forward from gospel to blues, basically a lot of blues singers who blues was kind of taboo in the church. Oh, they're singing that devil music. Or Howlin' Wolf expressed that about his
Yeah,
family. His family, they didn't like him because he sang the blues.
right.
But there were a lot of preachers who sang the blues on Saturday night and preached on Sunday.
Have mercy.
But as far as the music goes, the 1-4-5, the swing, and some of that, it's all the same. 8 bar, 12 bar, that's basically the same signatures, with the music. Uh, and it just evolved. So jazz people, who got kind of hip with it, they took the blues and sped it up and put a lot of, that musical nomenclature in there
Yeah, yeah.
that you understand because you're a music major and sped it up and swung it and did different things. So the key point to gospel, blues, and jazz and any other music, it's originated by people of color.
Do you remember the Dr. Watts?
Yeah, what was the song he wrote? Yeah,
The
Watts.
one I heard the Lord. He learned. What's that? I love the Lord. He heard my cry
Yeah,
and pitied every groan.
every
Uh,
grown.
there was no music. Those were just answer back and forth, like you said. They was communicating really what was happening.
Yeah, and and
Well,
and 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 it's true. That's the experience of the people. Gospel, blues, and jazz, a lot of it, I'd say 90% of it comes from people's experiences.
exactly right.
What
To
they
this
were
very day.
feeling, yeah, and what they were feeling, and the gospel church is like that. It's people needed that connection to God, but they needed it different than what they were getting from the ordinary Methodist church or Presbyterian, and there's no dig on them at all. It's just the fact that we needed what works for us as a
Yeah.
people, because we're people who feel from our hearts. We feel from deep down in our soul and in our belly. That's how we just about everything. That's who we are as a people.
Who are some of the people that influenced you and that you really listen to this very day, that you really respect in the blues area?
This may sound a little bit odd, but Sam Cooke
Okay.
is the top of the people that I would listen to in blues, gospel, and anything he sang. As far as blues artists goes, I've been looking at videos lately with a lot of BB King. Uh, BB King, people say, "Well, why is he so great?" But if you dig deep into his background, the guy, he knew blues music, but he knew music on top of that.
Right.
Put the two together. I saw a video the other day of BB King playing piano.
Whoa, I didn't even know he could play piano.
I had no idea he sang and played piano,
Really?
and he didn't do a bad job. So BB is top that list because he carried the music, and you can go back down to Howlin' Wolf and his work, Blind Lemon Jefferson, Sonny Boy Williamson, and a harmonica player. Uh, just Buddy Guy was there. Buddy Guy is almost 90 years old, so he was there with a lot of that. And I find it hard to beat that anybody can beat Buddy Guy behind the guitar.
Okay, yeah. He's
He,
he's, he's a bad boy.
he's a bad boy, but when it comes to just strictly stripped down blues, you can't get past Muddy Waters.
Okay, I kind of like Howlin' myself.
Howlin' is cool, but he and Muddy, they clashed over the guy named Hubert Sublin that played guitar for Howlin' Wolf, who's an excellent guitar player. Uh, you know, Muddy and in that movie Cadillac Records, where they, Muddy and Howlin' Wolf came to loggerheads about that, because
Yeah.
Wolf didn't want to let Sumlin go, and of course Muddy wanted him, as a rhythm player and as a guitar player. But Muddy, I encourage anybody to listen to Muddy the way his blues does. He plays slide and he played notes at the same time,
Okay.
which in itself was a different technique because the guitar, and I'm not very sure about this, but the old guys like Muddy, they didn't tune the guitar to regular E, A, G, D, B, E. They didn't tune. They tuned their guitars to something called down D. Have
I'm
you
not
ever
hip
heard
to that one. I'm not
down
hip to that one.
down D is the way that a lot of the old guys tune their guitar, and it meant that they could play any song just going down the frets, just being tuned in down D. It didn't really matter because I don't know musically, and you probably know more about this than I. It's how the D influences most of blues and gospel.
Yeah, I never heard of that one. Well,
Yeah.
speaking of that, I've seen you several times on stage. Matter of fact, I've had the pleasure of playing behind you a couple of times. And how did you come about becoming an artist yourself?
Well, it's an interesting story. Some people who've known me for a long time would say that I pursued being a blues singer. I never did. I was living in Philadelphia. I used to go to a place called Warm Daddies, which is still around. And I would go on Wednesday night, they had open mic. And after I learned to sing a little bit, I used to think, I always just tell people, I say, look, there's a blues singer in me that wants to get out. And that was just something funny to say. But I'd go to an open mic on Wednesday and I would sing a Stormy Monday and a couple Muddy Waters tunes, something like that, something from Howlin' Wolf. And I had a harmonica that I had ordered. I saw it was interesting. I ordered this harmonica, it was in the key of C. So I had this harmonica, and then I would get up and blow. Well, my voice is automatically in G. I mean, when I'm at the top of my singing, I learned it at G. So C is the fifth note in G, in
Yeah,
the G scale. So I toot a little bit on the harmonica. I didn't know what the heck I was doing.
yeah, yeah.
There was a band, and this guy just passed away who was a great blues singer in Philadelphia named Georgie Woods. Interesting guy. He was a blacksmith and he dealt with horses his whole life, but he was a blues singer. So he had a band, Georgie Woods, he had a band, and the harmonica player was a corporate looking guy. We called him Big Money Tom. He could play some harmonica. I'm telling you, this guy just rivaled, he was good. So one day he said something to me. I was leaving the spot, and he said, "Hey Lou, let me holler at you for a minute." I said, "Okay." He said, "That harmonica you carry," he said, "Do you know anything about that?" I said, "I just play a little bit." And he says, "You see it?" He opened up his kit. He had like 15 harmonicas in there.
Hmm.
And he said, "Why do you think I carry all these harmonicas?" He said, "Brother, there's a harmonica for every key. If you're not in the key, you're going to sound crazy." He said, "You don't know what the hell you're doing."
Yeah, that's true.
He said it in a nice way. I wasn't offended. And I said, "You know what? You." So getting back to the story of evolving, there was a guy, the sound man at Warm Daddies was a friend of mine named Brian McLean. I heard he passed away about a year and a half ago. But anyway, Brian, I would sit over because it was crowded. I would sit near the sound booth. And Brian and I became friends. He had a band called Brave New Blues. So I said, "Brian, can you teach me?" He played harmonica and guitar. I said, "Can you teach me to play harmonica?" He said, "Yeah, Lou." He said, "When I'm playing." So he would call me and invite me out to gigs. And then he'd get up there and say, he didn't like to sing that much. He said, "Oh, my friend Lou is here. I want him to come and do a few numbers." I'd do a few numbers with the band. And then he would, play behind me. I got to know his band members. So he, but he never taught me harmonica. So one day I just stopped and I said, "Brian, when are you going to teach me harmonica?" He said, "Lou, harmonica, once you learn, once you can feel it, you can play it."
Hmm.
I said, "Oh, okay. That's what you're gonna do." But anyway, moving forward, I was in banking. I was a corporate guy in banking, ran community banking for a mortgage company, and I was supporting a community organization that had a blues fest.
Mm-hmm.
And I convinced my boss to give him like 10 grand. It's kind of, I don't want to talk about money, but anyway, when I took the check over to the executive director, he was so excited. He said, "Man, he said, I'm so happy you're doing our blues fest this year." I'm like, I had to sit back in my seat and maintain my corporate composure. And I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? He pulled out this big blue and yellow poster. It's on my Facebook page. If you open up that, it's Delbert McClinton, Little Milton Campbell, Lou Jerome, and another guy that had a local band on this blues fest. I'm saying, "Oh yeah, okay." And I just kind of played it cool, but I didn't have a band.
Hmm.
I didn't have anything. So when I finally chased Brian down, I said, "Brian, what's going on? You got me on this gig. I don't have a band." He said, "Just call Roberto, who was his bass player." He said, "He'll set you up. You'll be fine." I did the gig. Again, was nervous and numb from the waist down. Didn't play the harmonica because I hadn't learned yet. I could chirp a little bit, but I didn't want to play. And there I was, the Lou Jerome band. Brian is the only person on earth that called me Lou Jerome. When I told him, I said, "Well, some people call me Louis, some people call me Jerome." He said,
Yeah.
"Oh, you Lou Jerome," and that's how I got started in Philadelphia.
Lou Jerome band.
And we
Well,
did some gigs, and people start calling us.
yeah, yeah.
I worked with, and then I started working with some jazz groups. Richard Adderley, who was an excellent vibe player. He was the music director, the youth director at the Clef Club in Philadelphia. I don't know if you've heard of the Clef Club.
No.
It's a jazz house in Philadelphia that they maintain jazz over the years. It's very popular. And so I got to know him. I did some jazz gigs, and then I decided to move back to Maryland. And I said, well, to myself, I said, "Well, this is over. You had your run. It's cool." I came back to Maryland and I started going down to the Full Moon down on Alisana Street in Baltimore. And I would get up and sing a couple numbers, and guys would come to me and say, "Hey, man, you in the band? We need to do something, And so we started again with the band here in Maryland. And I was just out of body from the whole thing. It's just am I doing this really? Who is this guy that looks like me up there singing? And so I would be out of body sitting on the side saying, here's a guy looking like me singing blues, which I always wanted to do, was in my heart, but I didn't think I could ever do it.
Yeah.
And I just went with it. So the thing is, when you have a band and you come from the shade tree side of music, you know what I mean when I say that?
Of course I do.
Yeah. You know a lot of guys like that. So what it impelled to me to do was learn what I'm doing, learn how to communicate with the band. So I
Very,
started,
very important. Very important.
yeah. So I went to community college. I studied harmonica, guitar, voice, arranging. I took all those courses and learned. Because if you want top-notch musicians and you can't communicate, you just get up and start singing and they got to follow you. That's not how it works. You got to know, as a band leader, you got to know what you want, how you want it, and communicate it to the music director who communicates it to the band. Or if you have to tell them something about a feel, something you're feeling, you have to know how to communicate that in music language.
Yes, sir.
And the only place I felt short was I didn't learn as much about drum signatures, because you're a drummer. I didn't learn,
I do my best.
yeah, but I didn't learn as much about drum signatures, 4/4, 6/8, all that. Some of it I know, but I wished I had gotten deeper into drum signatures, because the drum is I'd say the most important instrument in the band, to sit in the
Sec-
background and keep it going.
I'm always told that the drummer is like the engine on a train. He's carrying you down the track.
That's right. And
If
you got
he
to fuel
falls
it.
off the track, everybody may fall off the track.
And you got
So
to put the coal and wood or whatever
yeah,
whatever
that's
makes
right.
an engine go, you got to put it in there for the drummer. And a lot of people don't get the importance of a drummer. And a lot of drummers don't get the importance of their role. Some of them do too much
In the way.
in the way, but the communication between the drummer and the bass, and whoever's in that rhythm section needs to be solid
That's
in
correct.
order to get the gig to work. And they got to focus, the drummer should focus on the lead singer and what he's doing, so he can add, accent whatever, or, the lead singer's doing. So that said, I mean, that's very important in communicating with the band.
Well, on that note, Brother Lou Jerome, we're going to take a real quick break so that I can acknowledge some people behind the scenes. But stand by, and we'll be right back. I'd like to take time right now to acknowledge the person that's making this podcast possible, and that's Diggs Entertainment, and they're out of Frederick, Maryland. And the guy is fantastic. He knows what he's doing 1,000 times and more. And the guy that heads up Diggs Entertainment. What are some of the most funniest stories that you can tell us about that you've done? I know you got some, man. Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
Well,
Don't clear your throat. You got them.
one
You
one
may
of the
not want to
stories.
talk about them, but you got them.
Well, I'm gonna talk about this, but I hope I don't get sued. But I used to do limo security because my background is with the Secret Service and that sort of thing. So after I retired, I worked for a Muslim brother who did entertainment security, and when top-notch entertainment would come in, and I would drive the lead person. So I went in Marcellus for 2 days in the limo, and I did the security thing, but I watched his whole protocol. The man was all business.
Hmm.
From the time he stepped out of the limo to he stepped on the stage, and when he came off, he was all business. So
What was it like to work with him or with Winton and be his
well,
security?
in the security part, you stay in the background, make sure he's where he needs to be on time, make sure nobody bothers him, that sort of thing. You don't engage him. You only engage people uh, unless they engage you. If they want to talk to you, you talk to them. Other than that, you don't start conversations with a principal when you're doing that. So Winton was all business. He didn't engage me at all, but I watched how he worked, and everything was precise. With his band, when they hit the stage, they hit at exactly the time they're supposed to play. If it's 7 o'clock, they hit at 7 o'clock. And everybody had everybody, he called it vines. He said everybody had
Yeah,
vines.
they binds on.
He was big on vine. In fact, when he was coming off this, going on the stage, he looked at his sound man and his lighting guy, and he said, with some expletives, he said, "Where are your vines?" And he
And
went on.
they on the sideline.
They were shook in the background. Nobody sees them.
Yeah.
They had to have on their vines, and he hit on time. He did everything. But the funniest thing about that, when I dropped him at the hotel and went back and got the band members, and followed the band down. They were laughing in the band and said, "Well, they had a piano player that they hadn't seen before, but those guys are musically trained, so you put the charts in front of them, they know the song. But he played a whole song in the wrong key, and they were laughing. We will never see this guy again. He's done. He
I
don't know it.
believe that.
Yeah, he's done. But Winton knew how to fix that on the stage, so it didn't disrupt his performance. That was funny.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
the other, well, it's a lot of funny stories, but the other one in that limo business, just to segue over there, I had Billy Gibbons uh, from Texas, blues man. Billy Gibbons is one of the top notch guitarists in all the world.
Okay.
Um, he only uses a bass player and a drummer with his group, but Billy Gibbons, you can look him up. I had him in the car for 2 days, and he was really friendly, and he talked to me. He says, "Oh, hey, Lou, so what do you do?" I said, "Well, I'm retired, and I gave him my background. I said, I have a little blues band." Once I said that, for 2 days, all he wanted to talk about when he got in the car was blues.
Hmm.
He told me a study. He said that he went on a world tour and raised money and took the planks from Muddy Waters' native home and built the museum in Mississippi, the Blues Museum.
Really?
Billy Gibbons, with the long beards.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, him and Dusty with those long beards.
I kind of remember that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
was a fantastic guy, but he knew some. He said when Dusty and I first started, he said that we opened up with a Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley, and he said they didn't really like each other. So one would open up first, and the other would open up second every different day. He said, but Chuck was the type of guy that you had to know his music because he didn't rehearse. When he hired you, you had to know his music. He didn't have to
Yeah.
know what you were doing. So that was interesting, to some of those guys. I opened for Bobby Womack. I opened for Stephanie Mills. I opened for Cuba Gooding up in Philadelphia. Opened for some of those groups, and it was interesting dealing with the personalities of those people. Cuba Gooding was excellent. Stephanie Mills, we never really engaged her at all. But Bobby Womack,
I
he's
know Bobby Womack very well. That's my era. Now you talk taking me back to the '70s. So I'm
yeah.
Billy
So
Preston,
Womack,
Bobby Womack, Sly Stone. Lord have mercy.
we were sitting on outside. It was a outside festival. He sound checked his whole performance. He didn't just sound check. He did the whole performance. And we
Mm.
sitting out in the 95-degree heat, waiting on the fence so we could open up for him.
So
Interesting guy.
what you're saying basically, he did this. He ran down his whole show.
He ran down the whole show. We weren't
Hmm.
allowed to touch any of the. We weren't allowed to bring any of our own instruments except guitars and whatever but we weren't allowed. So this guy, I don't know if you know him. His name is Wes Lanick.
No,
Wes
not.
was played keyboards, organ, and guitar. Excellent guy, teacher. Wes took his Hammond B3 to Leslie everywhere. He loaded in the back of his Volvo. He carried it everywhere. He was so mad because he couldn't put his Leslie on the stage. They wouldn't let him.
Why? Why wouldn't they let him?
Bobby Womack. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. You don't have to
His
say no more.
crew,
I understand.
his crew, everything. And a Leslie's a Leslie, but I don't know if Wes had tweaked his or put some other stuff in there or goosed it up or whatever. But that was funny. I've had some funny experiences with people. When you're up there singing, you're in a restaurant or club where the people are close. Up at City View in Baltimore, I was playing there one night, and this guy kept coming up, and he obviously was fairly intoxicated. And we walked right. There was no way to prevent him from walking right up on me. I was on the floor. There wasn't no stage, none of him. Wasn't no security, anything like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
coming up there, he wanted to sing, so I let him sing. He was out of key and he was half drunk and whatever, but I let him sing. I hugged him around his neck, but he didn't know I had to hug him because if he went off the script too far, I had one hand to put over here and I had him in the chokehold. But he did, and people enjoyed it, and I kind of did a comedic thing around it. But afterwards, after the gig was over, he came up to me and he said, "Brother," he said, "you don't know how much it meant to me for you to let me get up there and sing with you like that." He had tears in his eyes.
Oh man.
And he said, "I just want you to know that I'm living in the hotel back here. I don't have anything. I lost everything. I work for the post office, but I lost everything."
Hmm.
He said, "I got something for you." While we were breaking down, he comes back with a brand new Fender bass in the case. He said, "I want you to have this instrument." He said, "They're taking everything I have, but this." I said, "Man, I can't take that from you." I said, "Do you play?" He said, "Yeah, I can play." He said, "But I want you to have this because I know you would do it justice." And I didn't take it, but that goes from the comedic to the serious of why we do music. We
Yeah.
people in places that you really don't understand. Gospel, blues, R&B, go-go, whatever, it touches people.
Yeah, it does, man.
They need a relief.
Music is universal,
Yeah, they need a relief.
international language.
Yeah. So, I
Well,
mean, a lot of
Lou, I
funny
got a
things.
question. Oh, I didn't mean. I
No,
didn't think
no,
you
go
were
ahead.
finished.
Go ahead.
Uh, kind of tell us what are some of the things that you're currently working on now?
Well, we did our first jazz vespers at our church, and it was very well received.
Yes, it
At
was.
your band, Manny Kellough Quartet with Janine. My phone rang off the hook for the next week. But that gig got me interested in doing some production work, helping some performers that want to get on stage, working with them. And I don't have any plans laid out. I haven't really put pen to paper on that. I don't perform anymore. I don't sort of play the harmonica that much. I mess around with my guitar a little bit here at home, but it's like this, you know, I don't want to get down on illness and all that kind of stuff, but
Yeah, yeah,
my
yeah,
voice changed, and I couldn't perform at the level. Not that I was always a great singer, but I knew my ranges and I knew where I could take. I knew where the hooks were in the songs, I don't feel comfortable doing that anymore. My
Hmm.
harmonica is pretty good. I mean, I could always get that back out and practice a couple weeks and get that up. But in terms of getting the breath in there and pulling the notes and everything, it doesn't work as well as it once did.
But do
So
you have a date set up for anything you up and coming dates?
November 14th will be our next production at the church. If everything on the church side, the administrative side, can get done, we'll do that. We haven't
Okay.
selected a performer yet. You and I have to talk about that. Uh, I have my feelings in terms of who I would like to bring because your band set the standard up here. We want to keep that standard across. It helps on the church end because people can come and socialize.
Right,
Like
right. Don't have to be stiff.
yeah, they don't have to be stiff. They can relax. There'll be a little finger food and some things, and they can, and the music has got to carry the message that we're trying to convey.
Very good. On for my final question, Brother Lou, what advice can you give to others? Shall I say, up and coming musicians, writers, and arrangers? What advice can you throw out there to the other youngsters coming up?
Well, learn your craft.
Yes, sir.
Learn your craft. Know what you're doing. Don't be a shade tree guy like I started out. Once you get into it, then you got to go to school. You got to learn. And then you have to, in terms of building a band, understand what your range is, understand what you can do and how it contributes to the band. Be a part of a band. I don't care if you're a lead singer or lead guitarist or whatever. When you're in a band, you're part of the band. No matter what you do, it doesn't stand out more significantly than any other people because you're up there with the mic. You're part of the band.
Yeah,
Don't
that's
do
right.
anything that disrupts what the band is doing, and vice versa. And I think it helps that you understand that it's not about you. It's about the band. It's about the music.
Yeah,
It's about the message we're trying to convey to people. It's about the entertainment of people, why they come to see you.
that is very touching and makes a lot of sense. I always like to say, have fun with the music, but take it
Have
seriously.
Yeah, have fun and
You
take
know,
it serious.
and I don't ever like it. Well, I don't talk about myself, but I always like to talk to the other young drummers. Is when you're playing, don't play everything you learned in school in the first 8 bars. Like Ray Charles said, baby, they see you back there. They know you back there. Play clean and stay out the way. That's
Stay
what
out
Ray
the way.
Charles told me, man. I was 17 years old. Man, it's been great having you on the show, and especially for you to kick off the first show, man. This is the first show, and thank you for taking time to be here in the studio with us. And I hope to
I'm
see
on
you again and talk to you again real soon. Again, we want to thank Mr. Lou Jerome for being with us. And also, I have to also go back and say thank Justin Diggs and Diggs Entertainment for making this podcast happen. Thank you, my
Yes,
brother.
sir.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
company.
Thank you so
And
much.
I thank everybody. God bless y'all. We'll talk to you soon.
God
Lou,
bless you too,
stay in touch.
man.
Don't be no stranger. Don't be no stranger. All right, man. God bless you. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.